So July 1, obviously it's days away, so we're all nearly there as this regime kicks in. Sounds like a lot, but realistically, you only need to check the client, especially if it's previous clients. We only need to check them for AML in the future unless something really, really changes, something major. So we don't have to check every single client forever and every single time. It's just when there's a designated service. You know, is there anything urgent you need to do? Yeah, register with AusTrack, set up your program and the training assessment tools that you need. A lot of that is available on AusTrack. Yes, it'll take a little bit of time, but we've still got 1 week. We have had many AML forum sessions to help cover this. Feel free to watch those on YouTube if you like. Do you need to check clients for July? No, we're just checking new checks from the 1st of July when you do a designated service. We'll go through that in a minute. There's 2 jobs in the spine of the whole thing. So work out the risk and then verify the identity. Everything we show you today keeps it in these 2 separate veins. So keep it, whether the risk is low, medium, or high, you make that call and you can record that for the firm for later. The verification is confirming the identity against the trusted sources. You know, at the end of the day, you need to ID check everyone from the TBB and ATO position, but the IDV obviously helps with AML check as well. And then obviously you can do AML checks. The next question bit. So we're not like the banks. Like, we are checking the clients when there's a designated service. We're not checking every single transaction. It's literally, we're doing a designated service and then we're going to do the checks. And I think it's just fine tuning your processes around that. You don't have to invent a whole new process. Just do it while you're doing the onboarding or the task that the client has asked. So if it's setting up a company, do the checks at the same time and record those determinations, whether it's low, high, or medium risk. And that will also determine whether you go further. So which each check, so the AML background tells you who you're dealing with against some background data. So you can utilize that to verify they are who they say they are and their addresses and things like that, that they are matching somewhere. I'll go through that and what that looks like in a minute. PEPs and sanctions. So this flags politically exposed people and anyone on a sanction list, if they're sanctioned for some weird reason. The adverse media, services, negative reviews and news that may not appear on any actual list. So that's being curated by Comply Advantage, and they pull that together to allow us to show that to you to simplify that process. Now, you only need to do adverse media when there's an enhanced CDD. Again, we went through this in the accountants forum, but basically, when you're onboarding clients, you do your ID check. If you're doing a designated service, you could do your PEP and sanctions and your AML background. You don't have to do an adverse media unless you've got that ticked off in your guide program for your firm. I would think most, if not all firms, would have that only in an enhanced CDD environment. So that means if they are a high risk, then you would do the advanced adverse media check. So it's built into the system, not bolted on. This is the philosophy that we've tried to implement so that the tool can give you the verdict, give you the information, and then the firm can make the call and record the reason for that. And then even if there's no clean, no match, you can still record the determination, because not everything is going to come back with an answer. And sometimes it might be a little bit more, you need to make the decision, because not everybody is on a list or in the system in that sense. So you may get other red flags that determine whether they're medium or high, or maybe there is no red flag, so they are just low. Yeah, so we've built it into Seamlss. It's part of the portal, it's part of the process, so you can easily do the checks, add some questionnaires in. They're in the template area. I'll go through that today. So Seamlss can cover your requirements. We can get some information beforehand, and then you can submit that through your risk assessment tools that you're utilizing. The risk assessment tool is coming in Seamlss. They are in the middle of developing it now. You don't need to export to different apps. You can do that all in the one place with Seamlss. I guess open up the contacts if you've already got them. So you might have already imported people. You might be using Seamlss with XPM connected. So you can use those contacts, those details, to connect. If there is an individual, some of the data will also flow through if they are an individual connected to the contact. And then you can pick the checks to run. And then obviously once the checks have ran, we can review the results. Now I've found that most of the results come back pretty much instantaneously. And then you can record your determination and generate your report for your firm, and you can save that on file. So that was pretty much the gist of my initial presentation to click through here today. Appreciate it. Let's switch over to the Seamlss app here. So here we have my dashboard, and we're going to onboard a new client. So I'll just bring up the details here. Put in my email. So we've got our person's name and the entity, the individual that we're going to check. Now we could also add a company and things like that if we wanted to onboard a entity as well at the same time, but just for simplicity of today, I'm going to just onboard an individual to make it simpler and easier to follow. Add in my phone number, next. I'm going to this is where we build the request. So here is the request items that we're going to add. So we're going to add Adam. Obviously, we're going to do a bit of an AML check. So I want to ask some AML questions. So I might not call it AML information. I might just call it questionnaire. Questionnaire. That one added. It's much the same, the AML lead and the AML questionnaire. So then we've got the AML forms and the ID check. So I would recommend doing a Stripe identity check. We'll do one today. I am using the camera, but hopefully I can switch to the phone. You have to bear with me for that one. So I'll add an ID check. In the coming days, you'll also see the ability to check PEP and sanctions checks in there at the same time. I'd recommend an engagement letter, but for today's session, we don't really need to do that, but we'll do it anyway. You can obviously customize the engagement letter if there was something to customize as well. So add that next. So here is the request. We're going to get Adam to fill in. We could deploy a job, but we're not going to. We'll send him a welcome email and send the request. So we're going to onboard Adam. Here it is here. If I bring up my emails, I've already got the email. View the request. I've got my phone. Get the code. Mr. Adam 5. Put in an address. And then I'm going to use the same address. Tax file number. Bank details. Oops. We do validate BSBs. Save and continue. Here's the AML questionnaire. So you can obviously customize this questionnaire for your firm, but the idea with this is for leads or current clients that you can ask information and a few quick questions of them. So around what they're looking for. So they might be looking for some normal advice. Maybe they want some help with trustee or company, and then you can assess that when doing the request for the client. But depending on your risk assessment, your risk tools, this might help determine where they sit in your risk profile. A few quick questions. So is this for someone else? Maybe they're doing it for someone else, so you want to know who they're doing it for. Is anyone a PEP? So maybe we can get the client to answer that as well. Yes, we can do PEP checks in Seamlss, but this is just a pre-questionnaire to assist us. Do we have any owners that live overseas? Probably not, but maybe they do. So we want to get that information. Mute someone there, sorry. So I'm going to say no. And again, you can change these yourself. Do they do lots of cash? Probably not. Most clients don't. And are they in crypto? So obviously, if you're a crypto business, you probably want to know that. But if you're not, move on. Let's go. If they've got any other questions, they could let you know. Now, here's where the ID fun will start, because I know that it won't work because I'm using the camera. I agree. And I can do this on my phone with with the tools. It's just loading up for me. So from a client experience, they're going to do this. I'm ready. Access my phone. So it's just asking me to access the phone and things like that. And get an image of my license. Now you're probably already doing this, so it's probably nothing too new. Submit the photo. So it's just taking my driver's license photos. Now what's the back of my ID? Most clients do it all on their phone, so they don't actually need to leave their phone. It all just stays in the one process. Now it wants a selfie. Got to look around. It's going to do biometrics. Done. Turn left. Turn right. I think that's done. It's just doing all the biometric checks there. Hopefully you can see that screen okay. There we go. You can see on the main screen now, it's moving along. What do you recommend clients open their onboarding email on their phone to do the ID checks? Look, if they do their ID on their phone, then that makes it a little bit easier, but you don't have to. It just means that they're going to have to switch to their phone at some point, like I just did then. It's not the end of the world. It'll still continue on and process as expected. There's a little help guide here to help the clients as well. Continue on. We're nearly there. They could add an entity if they needed to, but we're just going to sign the engagement letter and move on. So from a client experience, that was pretty simple, straightforward. And from a firm point of view, we have got the data we wanted. So now if I come back in here, you can see that Adam has done his onboarding. It's still finishing the background there. But if I go to ID check, review the ID check, it's still processing. You can see here's my images and my license. We can view them if we wanted to and what that person looked like. It's coming back as unverified, which you would expect because it's all made up and fake. But you can select what's happened here. And if it was no good, you could obviously request some other identity documents if you needed to do further checks. Normally the QR code, I did scan the QR code. Emma, you might, maybe I went too fast, but it was on the screen and I scanned it with my phone and then it switched to the phone. Could you embed the explainer video in the email to help explain the process? Yeah, you definitely could, Craig, definitely. Okay, so we've done that. We've got the forms. We've got the AML questionnaire here that we've filled out. You could view the questionnaire on the screen. Here is the answers that they provided. We can utilize that, as I said, to help with our risk assessment. If I come into the documents here, let's refresh that. Can view the individual AML questionnaire. So this is the bit where those additional questions that you just kind of have to ask if you've got your risk profiling down. What are they looking for help with? Who's it for? Is it for someone else? No, no, no. Obviously, you're getting no's. Then you can make that assessment and go, well, this is low. If they had some red flag questions in there, then you could say, maybe we need to raise the level on this person in your risk assessment. Otherwise, we can do some AML checks. So Adam, let's put in Robert Brand. Here's his address with an AML. Now, we can do further background checks within Seamlss to assess the verification of the person. So, and you can accept these terms here and read through them. For the credit reporting agency, you don't have to do that. It just gives you an additional layer of check for background checks for more sources. And we can do adverse media. So we'll run the AML check. That will run in the background. Now, this is the same process you can do with your current clients. So if you've got clients that you want to run an AML check on, you can run them without them knowing effectively. You can just run them in the background just to do the checks. They don't have to do the forms if you don't want them to. You can just run them. If I view the outcomes here, you can see that the adverse media is not yet verified, which you'd expect. It is a made-up person, so you'd expect nothing to come back. There is no adverse media. Nothing's come back. I'll show you some examples in a minute of that. Put in your results and the reason. That's as I expected. PEPs and sanctions, same deal. You'd expect this to come back with nothing. It is a made-up person, so it's showing that they're not on a watch list. There's no patient, there's no matches. So again, we could select the high risk. If it was high risk, then obviously enhanced CDD required. You need to do that adverse media. But in this case, I would select low, nothing to note. And then finally, the AML background checked. Again, if you get no match on this check, that is okay. Just because there is no match doesn't mean it's bad. Not everybody has a credit history. Not everyone has ever rented. Not everyone is going to have one of these items. But if it is a real person, if you're in your Seamlss system and you did a check on yourself, you'll probably find that there will be a match, and you can verify that their background check is checking out that they are who they say they are. So this is low. You could say medium. Dodgy. We'll record that, and then obviously we can also generate the report. I want to show you a generated report on a one that's come back. So that's how you can do AML checks in Seamlss. It is quite simple, quite easy. There is an AML tool here that can assess what you need to do a checkup on. So if you want to search for it, you type in new company and then step through the process, and this will assist you in determining whether you need to do a designated service and do AML based on the answers that you select. So it's going through and asking, you know, are you the resident office? Yeah, we're the registered office. Then therefore, I'm not sure. And then you can get the questions. Designated service, someone's got to review it, check it, and then you can start that check. The idea with that was just a tool to help people go through the process of, if you're not sure, then you can ask the tool if you need to do a check for this designated service, e.g. tax returns and financial statements are not designated services, where you can just continue on as normal. If I go back to the dashboard, hopefully this is all going to just work for me like normal. Anthony Albanese is a good example because we know who he is and what he's about. But the PEPs and sanctions, so if I request an AML check, I've got his name, middle name, date of birth. Apparently he lives at Kirribilli at some point. I'm going to do a background check and adverse media, and then I'm going to run it. And now it's going to go off and do the checks for me. The time is 11:19, so if by the time this refreshes the screen, it'll come back and they'll probably already be done. So here is the adverse media, which we expect something to come back, which it has. So there's a couple of different Anthony Albanese's that's picked, but you can obviously go through and review them if it was your client, to see whether you think, is this my client? Is this the person for enhanced CDD that I need to be aware of to check? And there is 2 adverse media matches there. High risk. This guy is in the news and dodgy. You probably have to come up with something a bit better than that, but explain your reasoning and why you selected that rating. And then we're going to record the determination, and then we can generate the report. Generating the report, we'll bring it up. It'll have all of the information, all of the adverse media. So here is the results that we just reviewed, the person, and then it goes through and finds all the matches, shows you the outcomes, all the different links. You can obviously click on them, save this to your system. And then finally down here, it's got the determination and the reason that you made saved. So if at a future time you need to come back to it, it's all in there. On the flip side, if we do PEPs and sanctions, this is the PEPs and sanctions. So again, we would expect Anthony Albanese to come back with a match, and can you believe it? It did come back with a match. So here is the match. We can review it and confirm it. So this is suggesting who the spouses are. So if you know your client and you've done your client due diligence, then you could confirm that some of this stuff matches. This is your client and these are their details. Now, if I shrink that down and I give it a risk, I could give it a risk, a medium, high, low, high wealth, and medium risk. Record, generate. Again, we generate the document, and then we can save that document for later, but there's also that snapshot in time of the outcome that we matched. So here is the client's details that were matched and the mentions and information. So it's recording that snapshot of all of the mentions for you. and you can save that. And then obviously your determination is also saved in that PDF document for the snapshot in time. Background, this I think also comes up with some matches for him. There you go. So even with him, it still didn't come up with some matches for tenancy and public addresses and things like that. He probably scrubs them. But you can see that some items have been marked as verified. And that's the idea, is that sometimes you'll get a match, sometimes you won't. No match is not bad. It just means that you might need to consider checking something a bit more thoroughly, maybe assessing it. But generally speaking, most people seem to come up with a match on a tenancy or credit check. Just check in quickly if there's any questions. There's a few questions. Do you have to complete the AML if providing designation not for every client? Cutie cupcakes, that's an interesting one. Do you only have to complete AML for providing? Yes, you only do the AML if you're doing a designated service, not every single client. Do you need their permission to run AML checks? No. Do you need the AML? Do you need it for some of the other checks? Yes, and we'll build that into the app when those checks are being done. What are the costs? I'll come through the costs in a second. The sanctions check using Open Sanctions, Petra. No, we use GBG, and I think that is some of the checks are also powered by Comply Advantage, which is one of the leaders in the area. Will I be able to review this again? Yes, this session is recorded. Yes, I will put it on YouTube. So that is how you can do AML checks within Seamlss and collect that data up front. The other thing that I do recommend is around leads. So if you've got lead links and you're using lead links in Seamlss, for example, you're doing a new client meeting. If they land on the page and they fill in the form, you can actually add the AML lead form. So again, add that AML questionnaire to the lead link. And that way the client will fill out their new client information and the lead AML questions. Now, this is not to do AML checks. You're not doing a designated service, but the questions in the questionnaire allow you to make that decision. Is this someone I even want to take on as a client? So if we go into the forms and I view the lead forms, the new, where is it? Why isn't it coming up? Have I not added it? Come down here. AML lead form, I'll add that to my templates, go into forms, AML lead form. Here are the lead questions. So what services are they looking for? What's involved? They're setting up a company, trust, or is it just them? Asking enough questions that you can kind of get, I want to say the vibe of the person before you've ever met them, to know, is this person a PEP? Do they have high net wealth issues? Is there money from foreign sources? Are they heavy into crypto? The idea with this pre-work for a lead is to allow you to make that assessment without actually taking them on board, without actually doing a designated service, but make that system, that systemized decision. Is a setup of trading and investment entities like a company, trust, a designated. If you set up a trading entity, like a company, yes, that's a designated service. We do cover that a lot in the AML forum. You also probably cover that a little bit in your training, but we do cover that a lot in the AML forums. If you want to watch those on YouTube, we have a lot of that sort of designated service discussion and a whole session around designated services. Come back. I do have a bunch of questions at the end that we can walk through. So you walk away with a PDF report, the checks that come, the response, and a clear record of the assessment made and why you made that assessment, and just keeps it simple to keep it framed up for that client, and you've got it forever. Once you've done the check, you can do it again later as well. So a check's not a loop, it's not a burden. You put it on the screen and then you read the result and you make the call and you record it. That's the shape of it effectively. Now, obviously the firm makes a decision. Hopefully you've reported your AML person, but the admin team should be able to run through the process until they get to a high risk, medium risk person. If something seems a bit off, then they flag it with the AMCO. It's obviously already in Seamlss. So it's not some extra login. It's not extra work. The client doesn't need to do extra things. You're already doing ID checks as a part of your processes and as a part of your Seamlss onboarding. So I've got lots of questions to go through from everybody. And there's even more popping up in the chat. Appreciate it. Don't be shy. We can go through it. I'll go through it. There's The webinar is nearly over, so if you do need to run, you need to run. I get it, but we'll go through all the questions. So do you need to run this on every client? No, you don't run it on every client. You can if you want. I don't see why you would, though. Clients take up the service regime for what it's covered. So if you're doing a designated service, then you do the checks. Now, you've got pre-commencement clients, so they don't all have to be done either. So all the clients that you've had in the past that you've done ID checks on, you don't need to do another ID check on them unless something changes significantly or the services that you're doing change significantly. I think if you add an SMR in there as well, then maybe you do another ID. Something is a little bit off for that client. Maybe you have to do another AML ID check. But generally speaking, if they are already clients and they said, oh, I want to set up a new company, you could log in there, sync your data from XPM, and then do your AML checks on the clients from the data you've already got inside Seamlss. If you wanted to do an additional check, you could send the fetch form off, as I did from the templates, to get those additional questions if you weren't sure about the source of wealth and source of funds. Now, if nothing comes back, as I said, you still need to record a determination. A clean result is still a result, and your client gives it a rating, could be low, and move on. Seamlss doesn't decide your risk. The checks come back, you make the decision based on your risk assessment program within your risk assessment program. It could just be that you're using the one from Austrac, and that is fine. Where does the data come from? It's just there. It says background checks sources. We utilize GBG, and it comes through with Comply Advantage. They are some of the leaders in the country. I think GBG does 70 million ID checks. When they told me that, I was like, how can you do 70 million? We don't have 70 million people. But they are doing that many checks there for different organizations that they run that many. So, yeah. Can you get a copy of the recording? Yes. Is there a checklist to decide whether the high, list, medium, AML? Your checklist is through your program and your risk assessment process that you have. Will Seamlss keep a register for our firm, or do we need to have an external one? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Sarah. We'll keep all of the information in Seamlss for you when we do. If you only act as ASIC rate agents, is this also a designated service? So if you're doing the corporate secretarial, I believe that yes, you are doing a designated service, and therefore you are supplying and updating those details for clients and confirming them. Then that's a designated service. You need to continue on and check them ongoing. Where do you find policies and procedures? AML, Austrac. That's your best bet. Go get their free training, free tools. Get you started. Would they be able to guide preparing AML policy documents? I want some subscribers around the policy document creation tool. I have a bit of a beta of that. I want some firms that already have a program to reach out to me, because I'd love to check the tool against what's already been created for you. We have to register for Austrac. Yes, Will Seamlss have a report which we can run all the checks we have completed. Yes, there will be a tool that you can export those for your annual audit, Sarah, so you can submit that report to Austrac. Please elaborate AI. There's no AI in Seamlss. Security is all bank level, bank grade. We posture with ISO 27001. All the data is hosted in Microsoft Azure servers. Appreciate it. So there's so many questions from the pre-work. Does Seamlss cover all the requirements? Yes, right now you can do all the AML checks and things like that. I do have a beta option for the policy document creation. I'd love some people to test it out and give me some responses for it. ASIC registered agent lodging 484s, forward annual reviews in scope. So treat it as it's in scope. At the end of the day, you're better off being safe than sorry. If you're doing ASIC agent lodging, then you should be doing the AML checks on those people ongoing when it's due to be renewed. Is auto super payments a designated service in Xero? No, you're not in the bank account literally moving the funds around and controlling their bank funds, then that's not a designated service. I think it was ABN put out some good quality information around that for bookkeepers, around what's in, what's not in, and just simply doing the ABA files is not in. It's not a designated service. Reddy's asking about being a small client, a small practice. Most likely, if you're just small and not doing with client money, should you register? So the question is, I'm a small firm. Should I even bother registering? I don't do this stuff. Most likely, everybody should register. At the end of the day, if you don't do any designated services, then you don't have to do any checks. But if at some point you do create a company, if you do provide the registered office, if you do things for clients, then you should run those AML checks. I can't say that you don't have to register, and at the end of the day, it's hard to say you'll never ever do it. As a accounting firm, you're probably going to do something, so I would just register from now to make sure you can be compliant. What's urgent? Register with AusTrack, pick some training. There's some training options out there for as little as $5 or $6 per person. There is some training on the AusTrack website that is free. There is a Seamlss, inside the Seamlss AML hub. You can put some information in the hub. In the hub here, you can put your learning together. There's different options. You can build out your training provider and a training schedule for your team and who's doing what. That is in the system, and just add your team to go from there. There is a timeline. We are now in the point where we need to have been registered, enrolled, and off we go. There is a bunch of different resources here as well. So if you're in Seamlss, you can access these tools from inside the app. If you're wondering where those are, will Seamlss be doing ongoing background checks to alert us if there's some changes? Steps? Yes. So Donovan asked about background checks ongoing. Yes, they're building that and rolling that out as a minute. It is happening in the background right now, but we just got to build out the dashboard to display it, to show it to you. How do we register for AusTrack? Click on the link and get started. There is, I thought there was a link here. Yeah. Here's AusTrack. Get started, enroll. Everyone's commented how easy it is. It's not that difficult. We do more complex things every day with tax. Can we hold off registering? Do we actually do a designated service? Look, you probably could, but I wouldn't risk it. At the end of the day, just get it done now. I don't know about you, but I'm not saying I'm quiet, but it's a lot quieter now than it will be in 3 or 4 weeks, and I'll be just flat out. And I won't have time to register with AusTrack. I won't have time to build the program. I won't have time to do all the training and all the necessary things to get ready if I'm not ready now. Go do the things now. Get it done. Stuart's asked, low-risk client, do we still run a PEP and sanction? Yes, the whole point of doing the PEP and sanction is to assess if they are low. You can ask that questionnaire, you can put them to your risk assessment and then assess them as low and then move on. I would find, we've discussed it in all of the accountants forums, most clients will come back as low. Most of your clients will be low. You'll just do the things and keep moving forward. The key is to assess the risk. So Sarah's asked, what do the results of each section actually mean? Walk through exactly a live demo. Oh, I just did that. Sarah, hopefully it's the same. Sarah, ask some questions if you've got more questions. If I didn't explain it well enough, please let me know. But basically, if the outcomes come back, then your risk assessment program will dictate what you need to apply it to. It's only if there's a PEP or sanction, then you might do enhanced CDD and then do the adverse media check as well, and maybe ask some more questions of the client around source of funds, source of wealth, foreign ownership, things like that, that might trigger enhanced CDD, and just increasing the risk and determining whether you're going to continue on with that designated service and supply it to the customer or not. Now, in saying that, like I said, 99.9% of our clients, it's all going to be low, and we're just going to do and continue on as normal. What do you use for ID checks? We use Stripe Identity, like a lot of other tools and apps out there. We are adding the GBG Green ID at the moment, so expect that to come out in the next week or two as well. How do I set up AML program to upload to AusTrack? You don't upload it to AusTrack. You save it on your devices somewhere and track it and maintain it. Same with the AML courses and certificates. Keep a track of it somewhere to make sure that you are tracking that ongoing training. Records, monitoring, and reporting. How do we monitor and report on an ongoing basis? That's what I'm saying. The dashboard and ongoing monitoring it will be out very soon with the notification. They're building the notification and the automation system for this. So it will be out very, very shortly to allow you to turn that on. Reporting, You don't need to worry about telling the clients to report. You don't tell the clients if you need to report them. All reporting to AUSTRAC is anonymous. Is a register of client DD risk category review dates required. The system records determination now. The ongoing tracking is coming. I'm not sure what Jared's asking there. Something around the registered client DD. I think he's saying CDD. So you mark off the risk as noted. Hopefully that answers his question. Abby's asked about the risk assessments. That's in there, CDD tracking. You do need to do the risk assessment, apply the answer. We save that assessment, and then that's obviously assess you. You should have some sort of program with you. The risk assessment tool is coming. Unfortunately, we ran out of time and didn't quite get it in there. The designated service tool doesn't have the option to export the results. Oh, I like it. I'll ask if we can get that done to apply that in. To be honest, I think we're going to focus on the risk assessment tool because that is built into it. So as a part of the risk assessment tool, you can ask questions from the client, ask questions from yourself, and get all of the answers along the way and get the report from that process. If another professional reports a client and you don't because it doesn't get picked up, you don't see an issue, will you be in trouble? Mina, I think that question's on my list from you. Look, if another professional reports an SMR to AUSTRAC, how would they know that you didn't? At the end of the day, why wouldn't you report it? It's anonymous. They don't know whether you reported it or not. Would you get in trouble? I don't know. At the end of the day, one of the biggest things I can take away from this AUSTRAC rollout is do the best. Be shown that you're having a go. Register. Implement some sort of program. At the end of the day, we're going to get better at it and we're going to improve as accounting firms. It's not going to be perfect from day one. It doesn't mean that do nothing. It means do something and keep it improving. It's not going to have to be perfect. I've talked to some people and unfortunately they are perfectionists and they'll be like, it needs to be perfect. It probably won't be, and that is okay. And AUSTRAC has even said that. They just want you to understand the process, the system, and to understand when to be doing it. Yes, it's extra work, Mina, as per all of their accounting forums. We are the last country in the OECD to be doing it. Like, we are a very wealthy, developed country that doesn't do AML checks. So, like the rest of the world, we're catching up. Leanne has asked about client views. CML, the client doesn't see the AML checks. It's separate, and on the back end, you can use the fetch forms to collect extra data, as I showed in the demo. Does it cost extra? Oh, that's a good question. I'll come to the pricing. How many staff can access it? All of them. I'd love some feedback if you think certain people shouldn't be able to access it, but at the moment, in my opinion, the low-level client onboarding would be mostly admin team members or the reception staff doing the onboarding, doing the initial checks, and then if it gets to a high rating or they're not sure, they would come back and ask you the questions. So the AML screenings, background, PEP, and sanctions at 770. Adverse media, you only need to do an adverse media if you've got an enhanced CDD. So if they are a medium or a high risk, depending on your risk profile, is when you would trigger that. Again, from a Seamlss co-founder position, I don't think we're going to run many adverse media checks. You just don't need to do it. Ongoing monitoring will be 550. So hopefully you can all, can you see my screen? Hopefully you can see my screen. You could, hopefully, I believe. So yeah, the pricing is on the website. Just go to Seamlss and then there's the pricing. Yep, excellent. Go back. I've got my questions here. If you have any questions on pricing, please reach out and let us know. They are including GST. I know there's a lot of apps out there. It's $5, it's $10 plus GST. Our prices include the GST. Client is involved in a GST refund scam. Is that reportable? Well, if they were the scammers, I think you probably should report them. If they were involved in a sense that they got ripped off, probably not. But I think that's where you would just go through the process of the risk and the outcome. And then whether you submit that SMR based on it being a designated service that you are providing and there was a reasonable suspicion on that service that something dodgy was happening. Yeah. Trustee client borrows 500K from a friend in Singapore to settle a penalty. It's a very vague question from Carol there. So, I'd probably ask more information to follow up. But at the end of the day, if there's significant money is coming from foreign international people, that would definitely trigger a few alarm bells for me to ask more questions and assess whether I'd even take that client on. And if they were a client, then it would definitely trigger some further CDD and enhanced CDD questions to go deeper in on that. Sarah's asked, one match is returned but will not show as verified. It won't just automatically show as verified. It'll show and allow you to check it and then mark it off as verified. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person. Even if it specifically has nothing, it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that they're not in one of the lists. At the end of the day, the list is as good as it is updated by the experts that create these lists that we're checking. At the end of the day, if there's no one on the list, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. If they are on the list, then we go for enhanced. Look, at the end of the day, the idea with Seamlss is that you've got the subscription. All the prices are included for the requests part. The AML checks and ID checks are in addition to that. At the end of the day, it comes back to that designated service. If you have a designated service, then run the checks. And most of all, get ready for July 1. This hour has turned into 45 minutes. Appreciate everyone's questions. Did I get to everyone's questions in the chat? I think the biggest one is the PDF from the results. I love it. Excellent. If I miss part of the training, or we'll be able to re-review again. This is recorded. I don't think I'm going to do a second version of this unless there's high demand for it for some weird reason. It's not going to be. It's recorded. I'll put it on YouTube. Appreciate everyone's time for today.